Hey EMU, welcome to our Black History 365 series. We are excited about who we will be featuring this month. If this is your first time ever tuning in to our series, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are excited and thank you so much for everyone who has been on pins and needles waiting for today's conversation. We had slight technical difficulties, but we are back and we are ready to go, and we are excited about interviewing our featuree today. Again, if this is your first time ever getting into our 365 series, this is a time where we are talking about Black history, the importance of Black history, as well as the impact that Black history has had on Eastern's campus. And throughout this series, we will be interviewing a number of individuals, from alums to previous administrators, as well as our beloved regents. So get ready for a candid conversation. We do ask that if you have any questions, that you will go on ahead and drop them in the comment box. Or if you have any questions that are not pertaining to our conversation today, we ask that you refrain from placing those in the comment box, and you can contact us at social_media@emich.edu. Again, that's social_media@emich.edu, and we'll address your questions appropriately. So again, today we're talking about Black History 365. Any questions that are not pertaining to today's subject, we do ask that you refrain from asking those, and we will get back with you accordingly. So without further ado, I am going to go on ahead and introduce our featuree today. As our beloved call him, Dean Peoples. Greg Peoples is a student affairs professional with over 45 years of experience as a university administrator. He graduated from, I'm probably going to say this wrong, he'll correct me later, Allegheny College in Pennsylvania, as well as he has his master's from Kent State University in higher ed. And I passionately know him as Dean Peoples, as his career expands from the University of Michigan, as well as EMU and Kettering Washtenaw Community College. And his accomplishments have been establishing enrollment services department at Washtenaw Community College, creating the LGBT office, as well as advisory board and Greek affairs office, as well as being our university ombudsman office here at EMU. I had the pleasure of meeting him during my time as an undergrad, and my heart jumps with joy every time I see him, and I am excited to be able to have this candid conversation with an amazing individual who has, again, over 45 years of experience within as a university administrator. He's impacted so many lives here at Eastern for over like 28 plus years. And I'm excited today. Again, without further ado, if you want to know what he's currently doing, he's over at Washtenaw Intermediate School District as their ombudsman development director. And he teaches a course in higher education administration at Concordia. So without further ado, we're going to go on ahead and welcome, as I say, my beloved Dean Peoples.
Hi, Taquinda. How are you?
I am good.
And it's fine to call me. It's fine to call me Dean Peoples. I'm recognized by that. So yes, call me Dean Peoples.
Yeah, you know I cannot steer away from it. Like I cannot steer away from it. But I'm so excited to be able to have you on our 365 series today, Black History. If anyone knows the emphasis of Black history, especially when it comes to higher education and what we do on a daily basis, I know it's you. So tell us a little. I know you've been a resident of Ypsi community for over 40 years. You have a lovely wife and, amazing children and grandchildren. So how has it been? Like, I've seen people are saying, congratulations on your retirement. So let's talk a little bit about the 45 years that you've had as a university administrator, and now, in the position that you're in.
Well, Taquinda, I've had a wonderful career as a university administrator. I say to people all the time, I grew along with the students who I was the dean of students for. We had a fantastic run while we were at Eastern. I love the Student Affairs Division at Eastern. I love the students at Eastern too. I mean, so many of them, and as we look around the country, so many of them have gone into higher education, not so much because of me, but because of the work we did together as a group of people. And it's so much fun to see them. You talk about Jeremiah Shin, who is now the vice president of student affairs at LSU. You talk about Satina Jones, who is the dean of students at Wilberforce. You talk about NJ Akbar, who is working as a higher ed administrator at Kent State University. You talk about Derek Coleman. I mean, there's so many people that have been impacted, not so much because of me, but because of their work and because of the work we did with them as students at Eastern Michigan.
And I think that's just marvelous, and it shows the work and the impact that not just you, but also our administrators as a whole has had on each individual. And I absolutely love that we can look back and see all these a testament to all of the knowledge and what you have placed into each and every one of us, as well as those who have gone on to do great things within their field too. You have a fan club on Facebook right now. They are going in the comments. So they are excited to most definitely have you. So let's talk a little bit about like what Black History means to you and the importance of this month.
Well, Taquinda, I think that's an interesting question because I'll answer it in a roundabout way. But Black history is important because it helps us understand where we came from and who we are and how we became who we are today. I mean, you have to understand your past in order to understand the future. Mm-hmm. So Black history is like. That's why it's so important. But it's interesting because we don't ask, normally speaking, I don't think we don't ask Irish people on St. Patrick's Day how important your Irish ancestry is to you, or we don't ask Jewish people during Hanukkah or Yom Kippur how important their Jewish religion is to them. I mean, that's just not something we do. Even during Chinese New Year's, we don't go to Chinese people and say, "Oh, well, why is your Chinese heritage so important to you?" It's important to them because that's who they are. And so, we don't have to spend time. They don't have to spend time with their children, helping them understand their upbringing, their background, because they do that every day. So, when you talk about Black history, and I think the next part of the question is, well, what does Black History Month mean to you? Well, it's really, again, that's part of the systemic racism in our society, because why would they only give us 1 month to talk about Black history when you really should be talking about it 365 days a year? I mean, that's how we do the other groups. You talk about Jewish, the Holocaust all during the year. It's just not for doing Hanukkah or doing Yom Kippur. That's a part of their raison d'etre, so to speak. I mean, that's who they are. So to me, that's why Black history should be 365 days a year. And if they were to do that, if they were to teach it appropriately, you wouldn't have to have a Black History Month, because it would be inculcated into the fabric of our educational system.
Mm-hmm. I most definitely agree with that. And I think coming from a background where, and I explained this in my last. But mm-hmm. No, go on ahead, Dean.
Well, so, to me, that question is, why is Black history important to you? It's not something you should ask Black people. You should ask white people, why is Black history important to you? Because we know why it's important to us. Our kids know, we live Black history, so, my response to police is because of my upbringing, my Black history upbringing. That's why I respond the way I do. So, you don't really need to ask me why Black history is important because it just is. So, what you should really do is ask white people, why is Black history important to you?
Mm, that is good. That is so, so good. And I know I was explaining in our last live that we had with Regent Jeffries, like the importance of like coming from my background, and like I went to predominantly white schools, all of my life, even to the point where not actually having like a Black teacher until I got to high school, and then coming to Eastern and being exposed to, so many different nationalities, an emphasis on Black history, an emphasis on MLK, weekend to the extreme. And then the importance of like being taught that, right? And I think that kind of comes, you just totally spoke to my heart when you said like it should be in the fabric of what we're teaching, even from the younger generations, leading up. Like there should be no reason why I got all of that when I went to Eastern versus what should have been elementary and middle school. So going ahead, sir, what were you about to say?
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. You would answer the next question.
As an administrator, in your experience, can you, shed a little bit more light on that, and how even now more than ever, what we can do to change the fabric of that?
Okay, so Taquinda, so how did one of the questions you were asking was how did you to become the person that you are in higher education? And for me, that's such an easy question to answer because the reason I am such a passionate person about education is because, just like you said, when we were growing up, and I'm a couple of years older than you, but when we were growing up, there weren't any Black teachers in their school system. In fact, Taquinda, the first Black teacher that I had was when I was in elementary school, and the first Black teacher that we had in our school district was my uncle. And so I remember when we were at our first class, he said, now some of you guys might want to call me, his name was Leroy. He said, some people might want to, you will call me Mr. Peoples. And he said, but one young man may have some trouble with that. And that's Greg, because I am his uncle, and he might call me Uncle Leroy, but that's okay. But the point is, so as we were growing up, there weren't any Black educators. And even when I went to college, Taquinda, there were few Black educators on the college campus that I went to. And so I learned then two things. First of all, my parents, several people who helped me become the person I am is the community in which I grew up in. The community in which I grew up in, I have a brother who was 10 years older than me, who started college many, many years ago. But when they started college at Kent State, Taquinda, Black students couldn't live on campus. They didn't have a student affairs division at Kent State. So really what happened was when Black students came to Kent State, they lived in the Black community. They lived with us. And we were the academic advisors. We were the student organization, the counselors. We were we cooked food for them. They lived at our house. And so my parents, and I tell people this all the time, I got paid very handsomely for doing things that my parents did for free, because when students came to the community, they looked to the community for support, and that's where they got the support. They didn't have support from the college or university. They got it from within the Black community. And so I learned early on that that's how Black kids succeed, because you support them, you nourish them. when these young girls, when they would get pregnant and they'd come and talk to my mom or my aunts, or and that's the advising and support system that they got. And eventually they did get student affairs division, but early on that's how college kids survived um, their education.
Ooh, that speaks volumes. Like I know that just talking about the emphasis of community and in order for students to succeed, specifically even Black students, like I think that's one of the things that I loved about being at Eastern during my undergrad, and then later on for my master's program, is that I had that community of individuals who were there to uplift me, to make sure that I wasn't falling off. And I had individuals like you, as well as Glenna Frank Miller and Mia Milton, and I can keep going on and on. Leah, like I can keep going on and on naming the people who have made an emphasis, that had literally become, like you mentioned, like that community, that second family, and they were invested in your success. And I think that's really
DeQuinda, and that was an era, that was a pretty unique era for education, particularly for Eastern Michigan University. Eastern, at that point in time, Eastern had a tremendous investment in the student affairs program. And we were very fortunate because, and I'll just tell you, so when we started at Eastern, the vice president for student affairs was Lawrence Smith, and he came in. He put together a team, a student affairs team that I just have to say rocked. I mean, like we grew up together, we had our kids together, we partied together, and but we took an interest in our students together. And the interesting thing about and I talk about this to Quinn, and I get excited about it. So when I was the dean of students, I loved having the students come to see me, and they didn't always come because there was a problem, but like they would come because they wanted to have this dance, or they wanted to do this, or they wanted to, and so they would share this with me, and we talk about it. And it was interesting because my role at that point, and it wasn't only for Black students, but we're talking about Black History Month, but so primarily for Black students. So they would come to us, and they come to me and Juanita Reed and Courtney McAnoff and Ronald Woods, and we had we were really strong supporters of our Black students. I mean, like you guys, some of you guys don't even understand how we really supported you guys. We did. So like when they would bring issues to us, it was funny because, I would listen to them, and I said, well, maybe you don't want to try to do it that way. Maybe they want to, but then on the other hand, we would go back to the administration and say, look, the Black students want to do so and so and so and so, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be. And of course they'd have some Black, da 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 da. And so, but eventually it worked out. So I mean, like I just the experience that we had there with the students and with our staff, it was just wonderful. I mean, it was great.
I love it.
I tell people all the time, Taquinda, when I retired, I said there were many days when I felt like there were many days when I felt like not going to work, but then I would get up and I go in, because at some point in time during the day, I would either run into a student who would just say something to just make my day. I mean, like, it was like, or there was, I run across a staff member who would just say something really funny. It just make my day. And that's the kind of community we had at Eastern. I'm not going to say there wasn't any racism there, because there was, but for the most part, we worked really, really. I mean, like I got a big kick out of things like we would take students to different states to leadership conferences. We had leadership conferences on our campus. It was just, one of the first things I did when I came back in 1991 was take a group of students to a Million Man March in Washington, D.C. Oh my God, to me, that was just one of the craziest because, first of all, I hadn't been back long enough, and I didn't know a lot of the male students, and so when I I was the designated chaperone to go on the bus with them, and we went on the bus, that's when I got a chance to talk to and learn about different people, and it was just a great time.
Somebody just said Deborah Pryor over on Facebook said that she says I can literally listen to Greg all day. It takes me back to my undergrad years. I have to agree. Like it makes me happy. It totally makes me happy. So tell us.
Oh, and stuff like
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Well, it's stuff like when we were planning the Black History celebration and the MLK program, and with Judy Sturgis Hill, and and this is the whole thing, like so again, one of the slogans that Vice President Smith had was that people support what they help to create. So when we had this MLK celebration, it was for a week. I mean, and Eastern's program was the premier program of the state. Okay, but we had faculty, we had students, and we had staff. All of us were part of the committee, and everybody had an equal voice. I mean, and so that doesn't happen very often. And I mean, yeah, Leland, that was great. But yeah, I mean, and everybody had an equal voice, and we had great speakers, and it was a phenomenal time. It's almost like it was unbelievable. It's almost like like a dream. I mean, we had so much fun. I mean, and Lena made a comment, but we went to Williamsburg, Virginia, to a couple conferences, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. So,
I love it. We have a couple more comments. Janita Moore says, "We truly appreciate you. When I was on campus, you didn't play, and we needed it as on campus." That is so true. Like, even though I wasn't there during that generation, but you did not play, and everybody knew that. Mia Milton says, one of my absolute favorite administrators of all time. You made our experience as undergrads unforgettable.
Well, but you know what, Taquinda, and again, I got this from my growing up in my neighborhood. But I looked at I looked at all kids, but I particularly looked at the Black kids as my kids. I mean, so when they came in to talk to me, it was so. And one of the greatest things to me is when I run into students like Keith Jason or Jerome Vass or something, and I'm talking to them, and they echo back to me something that I would say to them, and it's so funny because that's how I would talk to them and say, "Oh, really? Is that what you want to do? Oh, okay." So and they knew that there was something there. Okay, so, but it was just great. It was great. I learned as much from the students as they did, and they didn't realize. Sometimes when you said I didn't play, well, I didn't play because we were there for a purpose. You were there to get an education, and if somebody wasn't watching out for you guys, some of you guys really got astray. But for the most part, and like I tell people all the time, I don't think I kicked any of the. I think I maybe suspended one NPHC group. But all the other times they were suspended was really because the national had come to the dean's office and said, you know what, we need to suspend this group. I'm like, okay, fine. But see, sometimes it looked like I was suspended, but it wasn't me. It was only I only did that one time. But it was great. It was a wonderful experience.
I love it. I love it. So can we talk a little bit about your role as the ombudsman and like how important that is? Especially on any type of university's campus or college campus, like how important that role as the ombudsman is.
Okay, so the ombudsman's office was created really in 2004, and it was created for two reasons. I'll give you the. You want the political answer? Or you want the straight answer? Okay, so anyhow, the straight answer is, so at one point in time, well, in 2004 is when the university first came under fire with money problems. I mean, that's when the state of Michigan had, for some reason we just ran out of money, and so we were trying to. So we had a dean of students office, and we had several. We had the dean of students office, who had the Center for Multicultural Affairs, the Women's Studies program, the LGB office, the Veterans Affairs, and like there was. And we also had, on the other hand, we had the Campus Life office, and they had student government and whatever. And so really, there was really, we were stretching the money too thin. Mm-hmm. And so one of the reasons we decided to combine the Dean of Students Office activities with the Campus Life Office activities was because that way they had more money for the organizations and they could distribute it better. Okay, so that was one thing. But the other reason we created ombudsman's offices because there was a situation where a young lady had she had filed a grade grievance against this professor. Mm-hmm. And when she was filing the grade grievance, the department had told her that she really shouldn't file this grade grievance against this person. Now, this instructor was an older instructor. When I mean older, he was very old, okay? And he had flunked her because he confused her with another person in the class. And the department had said, well, you shouldn't file a grade grievance because this is one of those, what do you call them? He was an older person who had some status in the department. What do you want to call that? Okay. But anyhow, so she filed a grade grievance and she won the grade grievance, but she won the grade grievance because she brought proof in that she had passed this other class, and the professor said that she couldn't pass that because she hadn't passed the class before, but she had proved that she did. And the department had the young lady brought a paper and she left it under the table, and the department had picked the table up and said she was going to charge her with plagiarizing the paper. Which was like, it hadn't made no sense. But anyhow, long story short, they had decided that the dean of students really shouldn't be in that role. And so we created the ombudsman's role. And the ombudsman's role, Taquinda, basically is to help students and their families navigate through the university system. So if you have a student who has a problem with the billing or a housing issue, and they don't think that they've been treated fairly, well, then they bring that situation to me, and then I would discuss it. Now, the situation with the ombudsman is we're a neutral office, and we don't have any vested interest in advocating for the student or advocating for the university. The role of the
All right, so it looks as though we are experiencing some technical difficulties. So if you guys can bear with us right now as we get Dean Peoples back on our live. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. You are tuning into Black History 365. My name is Taquanda Johnson. I am social media strategist here at Eastern Michigan University. So we are going to bring Dean Peoples back on. We have him back. So there we go.
Yeah.
So
I didn't touch anything.
It's okay. It's okay.
No, you guys are testing my technology skills here today.
You still with us, sir. You still with us. It's all that matters. So you said that you were explaining how the office is a neutral office between the other departments and such.
Yeah, so basically, yeah. So we, and oftentimes, Taquinda's, like people would, the universities, like everybody else. If they can get by with something, they will. Here's another example of how I worked in the ombudsman's office. All right, so there was a policy, and I don't know if they still have this policy or not, but they had a policy that said if you had 6 credit hours before you finish your degree, you could march in the spring. Okay, so that means you can still have 6 credit hours to complete your degree, but they would let you march in the spring. But if you had 3 credit hours left in December, they wouldn't let you march in the December exercise. That didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was a situation where a young lady, her grandparents were coming over from like some other land, and the provost wouldn't let her graduate because the policy was they didn't have anything for the winter semester with 3 credits. They just said if you had 6 credits, you could march in the spring. Well, that didn't make any sense. How are you going to let a person who has twice as many credits to graduate march, and then a person who has 1 class not march? So that's the kind of thing that we were able to work it out so that the person was able to march. But like that's the kind of stuff that you do. It wasn't anybody's plan or that wasn't. But that's just something. It wasn't right. So what we did was we worked with the provost's office, and the young lady was able to march. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that we do, and you have to have. And again, the person needs to be able to navigate. And what I used to tell people all the time, and Taquanda, this is why, as an ombudsman, there's 3 criteria. Okay, 1, it has to be a confidential office. 2, it needs to report to the highest entity in the organization, either the president, usually, and then the third thing is that what's the confidentiality, neutral, and the third thing is we try to make a decision. The third thing is that as an ombudsman, I don't have any power to make a person do anything. My power rests with my integrity and my ability to convince people to do the right thing. So I don't make any judgments or any judicial decisions or anything. But my role here is to try to get people to do the right thing. And but again, confidentiality and integrity is the most important thing. And I think that over the years, I was able to convince people that I was a pretty trustworthy person.
Listen, you're still a good, trustworthy person, sir. I don't think there's no convincing of that. That's just in your nature and who you are.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, you're still a trustworthy person, sir. Like, that's just in your nature.
Thank you.
You are. Like, that's just where it is.
I appreciate that.
So let's talk about like why it's so important to amplify like Black voices, especially within higher ed or even
Mhm.
whatever career choice, individuals may have, like now more than ever,
Mhm.
even though that should be something that should have been done, but now more than ever, why is amplifying
Mhm.
Black voices so important?
Um, and you kind of said it at the very beginning. When we were going to school, we didn't see people who looked like us, and it's so important for a classic example right now. So important for young Black girls to see Kamala Harris as the Vice President of the United States. I mean, it's so important for them to see people like Michelle Obama. Uh, you know, the difference between Michelle Obama and Melania Trump is Michelle was a real person. I mean,
Sure. Yes.
she was Barack's assistant. She was
Mhm.
Barack's partner, and it's I don't know how to say it, but like it's so important for young Black kids to see that kind of partnership, that kind of relationship. And when you talk about schooling, it's so great for young Black males and females, but particularly young Black males to be teachers in elementary school and junior high school because they are role models for these kids. When when you don't see anybody become a doctor or a lawyer or a musician, or you don't think you can do that because you haven't seen that. We when I was growing up, that just didn't exist, and so it's so important for them to see people who look like them, for people to see them like doctors and nurses, and it's so important for people because other people see people who look like them. I mean, you see all Asian Americans doctors and scientists and whatever. So why couldn't we be? Why can't we be that? And so that's why it's so important. And particularly, DeQuinta, you talk about the college level again. It's and I think I don't want to be critical of Easter, but I am, because I have a although I didn't go there, I have a love for the people. But they need to do a better job of bringing uh, uh, Black faculty and staff, particularly Black staff, to the university. They need to have people. Yes, they have a couple. They have 3 regents now who are Black, but where are the regents bringing the people, the boots on the ground people? You guys, they need. I mean, they have Mia, and they have a couple other people and stuff like that. And y'all doing a great job, but you can't do that by yourself. When we were there again, there was we had 2 vice presidents. We had Courtney McEnough and Juanita Reed, who were vice president. Are you
Mhm.
kidding me? On the president's council, they don't have that now, and so um, and you and like I said before, we learned this much from you guys, but we fought for you guys. I mean, like sometimes students didn't think we were fighting for them, but we were.
Mhm. And I appreciate the
I
fight.
remember, I, I remember, oh, so many people coming and saying to me, I want your job. Oh, really? Yeah, because I can do your job. Oh, okay, do it. So, but I took that in stride because I mean, they didn't really mean it that way, but I understood the way they meant it. It's like, well, y'all come on and do something here. And, it was one of those kind of things where um, sometime I would, sometime we would say to them, this is the best way to get this done. You don't want to do it this way. You might want to try this. But then sometime, they would say this, well, why can't we do it that way?
Mm.
And I'd have to say, well, I don't know why you can't do it that way. Let me figure it out. Let me think. And I'd go and I talked to, and we might have to do it differently. But that's why it's so important to have um, uh, Black administrators and things like that. It's like kind of like I was listening to somebody the other day, and they were talking about Shirley Chisholm, and Shirley Chisholm said, "Well, if they don't have a seat for you at the table, bring a folding chair." I mean, you have to be at the table.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to give our audience a little opportunity to answer any questions. I have one more question that I want to bring out there and put out there to you. And then in the meantime, we want to invite our audience to drop your questions in the comment box, and we will most definitely address that. Even if you just have some comments regarding today's conversation. Again, welcome to Black History 365 with myself, as well as our beloved Greg Peoples. So today, the last question I do have, Dean, is how can we learn from Eastern's past to embrace EMU's future? You talked a little into that, but let's talk a little bit more about the legacy that we leave and paving the way for future generations. How can we learn from the past? And I know that you mentioned like that, yeah, we've had our dealings of racial injustice, on campus and such, as well as the lack of diversity when it comes to, faculty and staff and such. But how can we learn from the past and embrace the future?
okay, so again, I want to stress the fact that people support what they help to create, but also people enjoy learning from people who look like them. And it's also, I mean, the other thing about that, Taquanda, is white students learn from people who don't look like them.
Mm.
They, I mean, like, they
So it looks like we have a little delay. Chris Campbell says, indeed, yes, especially in higher upper level positions and in the classroom. Again, we have a little delay. We apologize for it. We are trying to figure out what is going on. We'll blame the delay on the weather. How about that? Thanks, everybody, for tuning into Black History 365 with us today. We are excited. This conversation has been so fruitful. And we appreciate Dean Peoples being with us today and being able to talk about being an administrator for over 45 years, as well as being the ombudsman here at Eastern. So want to bring up one of the comments that we did receive from Dr. NJ Akbar, which we're excited to be able to sit down with him coming up next week. It says a critical mass of diverse faculty and staff is a proven factor in student success for marginalized communities. Also, research shows that diversity in staff and faculty helps all students, not just diverse students. With Detroit being so close by, there's no reason for EMU not to have more diverse administration. Thank you again, Dr. NJ, for your comment. We appreciate it. We got Dean Peoples back with us.
So NJ was one of the. So NJ was one of those students who came by and said to me, "Oh, I want your job," and I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of him because he did it. And not only did he become a dean, but he also became president of the Akron School Board, which again I was part of the Willow Run, Lincoln, and so kudos to Dr. Akbar.
Yes, I'm so excited. I get the opportunity to sit down with Dr. NJ next week. He's not just an alum, but he is a beloved friend. And his comment says, don't tell them that I said that. I am loving this. So, ending it out, Dean, we were talking about how we can learn from the past and embrace the future. Is there any other comments that you want to give concerning that?
No, well, just the fact, and I got cut off when I was saying this, but like,
Mhm.
and NJ is one of those guys, and Satina and all, they learn from working in our offices. And when they worked in office, we didn't just give them filing things to do; we gave them real work. So when they got ready to go to graduate schools, people would look at them and say, "Oh, you did that." Yeah, how could you do that as a student? Just because my mentor, I mean, like, and that's how, again, that's how our program at Eastern rolled. That's how we rolled back then. And there's no reason why they can't roll back like that again. They just they have to make the commitment like he said, they have to make a commitment to bring Black faces to the campus for you guys, and I mean for all students. I mean they do. They just need to do that. When people have left there, have they replaced them? No. I mean, like, yes, I understand there's a financial crisis there, yada yada yada. But you know what? Here's the thing: when you want something to be done, you can do it. When yeah. So when they say, well, we don't have, no, they can do what they want to do.
Mm.
And if that's an important thing for them, they can do that.
I think that I love the fact that
they did
you
it before,
said
they
that
can do it again.
That is right. I know one of the things that you said that spoke volumes for me, and I think as a as a student back there, like back then, you didn't understand why you're, as I used to say, your community, right? Like you didn't understand why your community was giving you so much stuff to do. Like there were positions that I had on campus, like with individuals like Barbara Jones and, Leah and Pat over at, academic advising, like that legit put me in a place where I am today to be able to go into PR and sitting on 15 years in the industry and those, just like Lolita, Cummings Carson, who made you work hard. And if you did not, she was going to do it again. Like it's those things. And I always tell our student staff, and our GA is watching and behind the scenes. And I always tell her, and I say, Eastern is the bubble. My job is to prepare you for outside of the bubble. You might not understand why I'm telling you to do X, Y, and Z, but understand you're going to know later. And I appreciate what each of you guys did for us, so that way we can be able to pour that into the current students.
And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And like I say, it makes my heart feel so good to see all these people doing so well and making contributions to the community. And just, that's why I feel so good about my career as a higher education person. Not so much because of what I did, but you can see the fruits of your labor, and that's what it's all about, And like, I continue to give because I can give, and when you start giving, when you stop giving because you can, that's when you're in trouble. So yeah, I love that. But I really do wish Eastern would get. I really do wish they would focus more. Well, never mind.
Well, I appreciate you so much. I'm so happy to again have you. Thank you, everyone, for joining into our conversation. Black History 365. We are celebrating Black History 365 days of the year, not just a month. Again, my name is Taquanda from the Division of Communications. Thank you, everyone, for logging on. Thank you, Dean Peoples, for
You're
being
welcome
here today and having this candid conversation. I love you. I know everybody watching.
I love you guys.
And if you are catching the replay, we invite you to leave your comments in the comment section, and we'll make sure that we answer some of your questions, even get those over to Dean Peoples for him to answer, and we will get back with you. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
I'll be glad to come back anytime. Bye-bye.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait.